Previously on The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. Man, finally Rick called out that terrible haircut. He runs into Jadis, who has the long hair here, so we know that it's, further back. And Rick wants to go home. He gets pissed at her. He's like, look, I want to go home. Rick leaves her a boat for her to get on, right? And Rick decides to tell Michonne through a letter, go without me. If you love me, you'll leave and you'll never come back. If I have to knock you out, you're leaving. I can't leave anymore. But if I have to knock you out for you to get out, then that's what I'm going to do. And Michonne says that she's sorry, and she takes Rick, and they, fly out of the helicopter together. So they did escape, but now it's the question of what's going to happen,
To go back.
Your preferred temperature.
You're about to get it. You better back off. Back off.
Will be
Where is that thing?
I think somebody needs to come by and destroy this thing.
Guys, shut the hell up!
Hey guys, it's Dan, your host of Dan's Reviews, and today I'm back for another video for The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, and in today's video we're going to be doing our weekly review for this week's episode. This is for Season 1, Episode 4, titled, What We. Alright guys, this one's going to be doing a review today. This one's going to be doing a review for the Walking Dead universe, and in today's video we're going to be doing our weekly review for this week's episode of Ones Who Live. This is for episode 4, titled What We. So, got a chance to see episode 4, The Ones Who Live. Could not wait to go ahead and do my review for this episode, because this episode was the most hyped episode from the earlier reviewers of at least the first 4. Obviously 5 and 6, from what I've heard at least, it sounds like early reviewers did not get early access to, so we're all kind of going into these ones blind, which is pretty exciting. This episode was, talk about an emotional roller coaster. Seriously, talk about an emotional roller coaster. I do have to say, I think this is my favorite episode so far of Ones Who Live. And that says something, because this show has been amazing so far. Episode 1 is one of my all-time favorites so far. That episode was incredible. Episode 2 and 3 I really loved as well too. But 4 hit a certain, level that I didn't think they would go to. I really didn't. So basically the premise of this week's episode is that we have Rick and Michonne, after escaping the helicopter of last episode, after she chucked him out, basically, they find themselves in this, huge, apartment building, right? And it's, fully, powered. You've got, electricity. You've got a little Roomba there or whatever that's, vacuuming the darn floor and stuff like that, which I found pretty funny, because most of the way through this episode, you just hear this thing, cleaning the damn floor as it's, going around, and you've got Rick that's just where is that thing? He's trying to have this argument with Michonne about going back home, staying at CRM, going back home, staying at CRM, and then the thing just keeps saying, you have had a clean floor now, you have made your destination. Rick's just where is that thing? Love that. I thought that was great. But we have a bit of conflict in this episode, you know what I mean? We've got Michonne, who is angry because she has lost everything that she has, had getting there. She lost, Nat's group, spent a year fighting for oxygen, and spent a year away from her kids just to get back to Rick, who doesn't even want to go home. He's barely even talking to her, and she is pretty frustrated because Rick is not like that. Rick will usually just, help out and say, screw this place, we're going home, that's the end of discussion. But with this place, we notice how much the CRM has messed him up. And that's a lot of what this episode is about, is showing you their mental state. And I think that's why, to me at least, it's the best episode. Because Rick and Michonne have not had a chance to talk in this kind of way. They were in the CRM, they had to keep secrets, it just wasn't the right place to communicate. This episode, finally, we actually have pretty much an entire 40-minute discussion between the two of them. Honestly, there is not much else that happens beside, the CRM coming by once. It's a pretty straight-up just dialogue episode, and I think that's why I love it so much, It feels very raw, real, authentic. It feels very different from anything we're used to, and I think they do a really good job with it, because this episode, which was, of course, directed and, produced by Denai Guerrera, which is very obvious because the dialogue is amazing. She did a really great job working on this episode, I might say as well too. And anyway, you've got them that, they're in this apartment building. You've got Rick. He's like sitting there saying, we need to go back. We got to go back. And Michonne ends up snapping at him, and she pulls out this book, right, that she loves. And, she's like, yeah, you become quite the writer recently too, And she's like, I am not telling my children that, and she says children in particular, that their father chooses to stay here, right? And Rick's just like, yeah, like you said children, So we do get Rick finding out about RJ, which I'm glad that they revealed that. That was a really cool moment right there when Rick actually finds out. And that kind of freaks him out a little bit. But you know what's funny? He still stays loyal to the CRM. He still stays as what he was. He is trying to change this place. He's trying to take the place over. And Rick even explains in the dialogue in this one that, a man named Okafor, the guy that you shot down, he was trying to change the place and now he's dead. Pearl Thorne, she's one of them now. I'm the only one left that could potentially change this place. So that's where Rick's mindset is at, and that's where his, mental state is, at least when it comes to that. He knows he can't leave. He knows that Jadis is going to go after the communities, and, Alexandria will probably be destroyed before they even make it back, and that's what Rick is thinking. Now, on Michonne's side, you can understand why she's so pissed off as well, too. And most of the time, I'm in agreement with her this episode, to be honest, because, it's true. This is not Rick. This is not who he is. And this episode is basically the moment where Rick reveals why he's, behaving the way he is. And it's really amazing. But it actually comes to a pretty dramatic scene where basically you've got like the CRM who are there and they crash the helicopter into the other building. And it's a moment where Michonne and Rick feel like, oh, well, they're going to think we died in the helicopter crash because that was the helicopter we were in, right? So then Michonne's just like, we can go home now, Rick. And Rick still says no, And that's when he's just like, no, they're not my people, but I'm here to change them. I'm here to change that place into what it's supposed to be. And Michonne is in disagreement. And she tries and she tries and she tries, but Rick will not budge, And she decides, you know what? I can't stay here. I cannot stay here anymore. She grabs a knife. She, of course, yells at him, says, I don't know who you are anymore. I don't know who you are, but this is not you. And you're lying. And you know what? I'm leaving. And by the time you realize that, you're lying to yourself, it's going to be too late because I'll already be gone. I'm going back to my kids. I'm going back to my family. And that's how it's going to end. She takes the knife and she actually leaves. She does. She leaves Rick. And it was a pretty sad scene. Because you can tell that Rick doesn't want to. He's holding the door, he's shaking and stuff. And again, might I add, the acting from Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrera, I mean, to another level, this episode. I mean, seriously, to an absolute just next level, quality. And of course, she's walking out, and then you see the CRM that, of course, returns. They're coming back. And you know how the CRM operates. They try to destroy any evidence that they exist in the outside world. So they destroy that building, and, of course, the building starts collapsing in front of Rick and Michonne. They're inside. Rick tries to get to Michonne. He runs after her, and the building is being, absolutely crumbled as we speak. And it's on its way down, But Rick and Michonne have to fight a whole bunch of the dead inside of this hallway. Really intense scene there as they're fighting their way through and stuff like that. And again, Michonne and Rick, a lot of great dialogue in this episode. There's one part where they lock themselves into this room and they're talking, and Michonne's just like, this is not the kind of guy that I know. I know the Rick I know would not talk to me like that, And it's actually pretty deep because she even asks him, she's like, do you even love me? Like, and it's like, damn, man, like, you're breaking my heart here, man. Like, frick me. And, oh my god. So, anyway, they, of course, make an escape plan. They get out. Rick is still on the whole idea of, what he's doing makes sense and stuff like that. He goes with her. They escape together through the hallway, and you get a chandelier that, kind of falls down and, crushes Michonne's, leg pretty bad, and she's not able to move. So Rick literally is sitting there killing multiple walkers just to get her leg out of that, chandelier that's, on top of her, right? So they end up, trying to get away. It's a pretty intense scene, and I love it, too, because Michonne's like, just leave me, and he's like, that will never happen, and he just continues to kill one after the other until he manages to get her out, which that's a Rick thing to do, 100%. And then he starts coming back, you know. You get a scene where they go back to the apartment, right? They go back to the building, and you get a scene where they kind of sit there and they, well, you know, we get a bit of a Rick and Michonne sex scene, okay? So for anybody that likes that, there you go. You get a good 5 minutes of that, so enjoy that, I guess. And yeah, you know, they do it. There you go, right? They have some fun. And then, of course, you have a moment where they're talking about RJ. They're talking about how much he looks like Rick and stuff like that, which I disagree with, but whatever. I don't think he looks anything like Rick, but anyway. You got that, and of course, then you get Michonne that tells the story about the X scars because Rick was curious. So she does tell him about the journey that her and Daryl, you know, kind of were on with Jocelyn and, you know, the whole X scars. I was kind of waiting for her to mention the whispers, but I guess maybe that'll be something she mentions later on. Maybe she also doesn't want to mention that there's an ongoing threat from her perspective, so maybe that's another thing. But, you know, I love how Rick asks, he's like, did you kill her? She's like, yeah, and he's like, good. It's like, damn, bruh, all right. Eliminating anybody, I see, Rick? Yeah, seriously, the CRM even put that mental thought in his head, too. So, then we get, in my opinion, the greatest acted Michonne and Rick scene we've ever seen, honestly, and I mean ever. I mean, honestly, this scene admittedly got me a pretty damn emotional. I'm not even gonna lie. I actually did cry a little bit. I'll admit it. I did. There was a bit of me that was kind of getting emotional here. When you've got Rick that talks about Carl in his dreams and how Carl disappears, right? And the CRM did that to him within enough time of him being captured. He saw Carl in his dreams. Carl kept disappearing. You see all this footage of Carl and Rick throughout the show, and it was so emotional. I'm like, oh my God, man, you're killing me. And then he explains the dream that he had with Michonne. Same thing. She disappears. She burns away. He could not see her anymore. He could not remember their faces, you know? And I mean, that's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. And Rick, I mean, again, Andrew Lincoln's performance here is so good. He literally cries in her arms. And he says that's why, you know, he accepted his fate on the bridge. He accepted that he was dead there. He accepted that people thought he was dead. And he did not want to go back to the community because he knows that he will lose people again. He will lose Judith. He will lose people. He cannot handle another Carl. He cannot handle another, you know, death in his family. And I think a lot of us can't handle another Carl, you know. I think that was a horrible writing decision, you know, when they did that, of course. But you notice how torn up Rick really is about Carl, and he's not the same. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that they brought that up. I did not think this episode was going to go that deep with it. But they went there, and I'm glad they did, because it's part of his character that honestly is sticking with him, you know? And Michonne says, look, we're either going to die in this crushed building, or we're making the decision to go. But, you know, either way, we're not leaving until we come up with an idea. They get their things, and we get one of the most badass endings to an episode I've ever seen, where they go building through the whole building, floor to floor, and even make out in the elevator, for God's sake. And, you know, they get to the truck, they make their escape, and Rick says, like, let's go home. So it's pretty amazing, and it's pretty symbolic, too, because the building crashes, and, you know, still that damn Roomba or whatever that's, you know, still somehow intact, but anyway, and they leave, and, you know, they head for home. That's the plan. And I love it, too, the subtle detail, because Rick's just like, oh, it's a stick. Okay, let's switch spots, you know? And Rick can't drive a stick, apparently, so there you go. Apparently, Daryl can't either, from what we saw in 614 of the main show. I remember that, too, so there you go. But, yeah, no, this is an incredible episode. It's my personal favorite from this first season. I really enjoy it. It hits home, and it's emotional, man. It really is. Watch it. If you're a fan of The Walking Dead, watch this episode. Wow. Honestly, I am blown away with this episode, utterly. So, we got 2 episodes left, y'all. We got 2 damn episodes left, and then that's it. So, post your comments below. What did you think of this episode, of course? And, yeah, share your thoughts. Anyway, if you're new to the channel and you enjoy this video, make sure to click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos of The Walking Dead universe. Make sure to follow me on Dan's The Walking Dead Reviews on Instagram, guys. And, of course, I'll see you guys really soon for more videos of The Walking Dead, the ones who live. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and peace out.